Well, there we go. Good. Got that one out. Will's having another stretch. It's good.
Yeah.
It's good.
I'm all good now.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the ETTO Comics Cast for April of 2021. I am Ben. We've got Josh. We've got Will. I'm pointing at the screen, but you can't see who I'm pointing at, but that's fine, because we've got Will and Josh. They're both to the right of me or left, or I don't know my directions.
Yeah.
It always sucks. I'd never know what direction anything is. There's always like mirrored in weird ways, and who knows.
And if you're listening entirely as audio, we're just kind of surrounding you, so directions don't matter in this dimension.
Yeah, exactly. We're just everywhere. We're in your left ear, your right ear, your top ear, your bottom ear.
Who bloody knows?
Who bloody knows? Who bloody knows? So, what comic are we doing? We're doing Invincible. It's currently an Amazon Prime TV series as well. So if you've been flicking through Amazon Prime, you probably noticed it's there. Great TV series. But that's not what we're talking about today. We're talking about the comic that started in 2003.
Crazy. How many issues are there of this now?
Like 144 is the main run.
It's a lot. There's a lot. It went till 2018, I think.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's done now.
Yes, it is done.
Interesting. Cool.
But yeah, no, it's wild. Like, and I mean, there's a few dated bits that you can tell were written back in a previous day, but I don't know, it still holds up pretty well. But yeah, no, I have watched the show myself, or however much is out of the show at this point, which is the first 7 episodes. Will and Josh have not watched it, so there will be mild allusions to the show, not spoilers, so to speak.
No.
But I'm sure we'll do another podcast about it soon, when we do a spoiler cast about the TV show once the whole season is out and all that. But yeah,
you mentioned to us before that the first episode is the first 7 issues.
So, essentially, it's like,
if you talk about the first episode, it will spoil virtually nothing.
Yeah, they jump back and forth between like some of the storylines, but basically, this is like an extended version of what is the first episode of the show, which is wild because I'm just remembering how much is in that first episode. So yeah,
I saw a lot of people online on Facebook groups and stuff just saying like, do not watch Invincible with your children.
No, don't.
Because I don't find the comic all that intense yet, really. But I'm sure it does.
Yeah,
definitely.
But at this point, I'm like, seems fine. But there's quite a few.
If you watch the trailer for Invincible, it's like the trailer is basically what this 8 comic run. The first minute and a half of the trailer, it's like, oh, this is like a light 7 origin story, and then the last 30 seconds of the trailer, it's like, my eyes.
Interesting.
And it's an interesting thing where I watched an interview Kind of Funny did with Robert Kirkman, which was basically going into Invincible and how the TV show came about, a bit of history of the comic books, all that stuff. He did some other stuff, which we'll get to in a second. But one of the things he mentioned in that interview was that Amazon needed to really make sure that parents were going to let their kids watch this. So all the marketing for it is like, this is not a kid's show. Whereas you've got this first 8-issue run, which is like, oh, we're pretending to be a superhero comic. And then all of a sudden it just... soft. Yeah. I thought that was very funny that like, it's completely different in that aspect. But speaking of Robert Kirkman, he wrote Invincible. This is our comic curiosity section where we run through some facts and the writers and the artists of the comic we're doing for this month. You may know Robert Kirkman. I mean, he's well known for writing Invincible, but you may also know him for a little small indie comic called The Walking Dead.
Oh yeah, that little thing
which he created. So he's really gone through like this meteoric rise in the past 10 years, clearly, because like I know his comics were like well loved before that, but now he's had like how many seasons of The Walking Dead? Like 8 seasons,
8 or 9, yeah. like
was he
spin-off
writing
shows.
both at the same time?
Yeah, I think so. Most of
crossover was there.
I don't know. The Walking Dead comic. Let's quickly look that one up. That ran from 2003 to 2019, and Invincible was 2003 to 2018. So the crossover was.
Did it ever get handed over?
Nah, he wrote it the whole time. He was writing two comic books for 16 years. That's insane. That's actually crazy.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
Cool extra little fact there.
Prolific. And then in the past 10 years, he was also executive producing a TV show and creating Skybound Entertainment, which does TV films and now does indie game publishing as well. And yeah, executive producing Fear the Walking Dead as well, Invincible show. And there's a live action adaptation for film coming out of Invincible as well, supposedly at some point. How is he alive?
He's a busy man.
He is.
He must have all the money too.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
That's crazy.
But yeah, no, he's pretty good at what he does. As we'll get to, I'm sure, across this comic book and across other conversations we'll have. But yeah, no, I mean, you can Google him. There's plenty of information if you want to know more. But yeah, Invincible, Walking Dead, those are his babies. The other one thing I did want to mention is he has written like a few Marvel comics. He's mostly an independent comics writer. But the one that I thought was interesting was he did What If Thor Was the Herald of Galactus in 2006. Cool. And last year's Thor run, he was the Herald of Galactus. And that was also the one that tied into Fortnite.
Yeah, of course.
And so, as someone who got weirdly into Fortnite last year because of that specific thing, I find that very funny.
You can thank Kirkman for getting... Well, I wonder if you got any of your money last year as well.
I don't think so, because I had a brief look at it. I didn't read it or anything, but I don't think it was at all related to like what they ended up doing.
Yeah.
So good on you. You not only have you made two of the most successful indie comics, but you've also been prescient in your Marvel comics. You're doing well, Robert. Doing very well.
Good on you.
Making it crossover into one of the biggest video games of our generation. What the heck?
Can you imagine if Skybound like became the publisher for Fortnite as well? So it's just like it just owns the world basically.
Yeah, why not?
Yeah, if they own Epic, they would basically own the world.
Yeah. Yeah. But you know, enough about Robert Kirkman. You can find out plenty of information about him if you want to. The artists for these 8 issues, we're just doing the first 8 issues in this podcast. Corey Walker did the first 7. He's largely credited as the co-creator of Invincible with Robert. And then Ryan Otley started from issue 8 because Corey ran out of time, and apparently basically what happened was Invincible was falling behind schedule, and Corey was like, I can't do this anymore, so Ryan took over. Basically did most of the rest of the run. Corey dipped in and did little bits here and there, but yeah, Ryan Otley did most of the rest of it. So if you continue reading after that, that's mostly done by him, which is interesting.
When you say like they did and they co-wrote and stuff, is this a writing perspective or an art perspective?
This is art.
Okay, so did Robert Kirkman do art as well?
No, he was just the writer. Okay.
So he wrote everything, and these two guys were artists.
Yes, basically.
Sick. Okay, cool.
But then Corey and Robert like came up with the idea, co-created it. Then Corey was like, I can't do this anymore. Interesting little story. That basically, I think I read this on Comixology, and the volumes, they're split into volumes on there. And I think I read the little introduction piece they did at the start of it, and it goes into the story of kind of how that all happened. It was like all amicable and everything. But yeah. Corey couldn't find a lot more about him, but Ryan Otley did a lot of work on the interiors for the current ongoing Amazing Spider-Man run, which I haven't read. Apparently it's good. That's about all that we have for them. And then for the color artist, Bill Crabtree.
What a name.
great name. Very little information about him. I like to try and like bring all the creators in because I don't want to be the person that's like only focusing on the writer or the artist and stuff.
Yeah.
He did a bunch of Invincible, did some other stuff with Kirkman when Kirkman did Marvel stuff. It's hard to find information about some of these people, but I try. Yeah.
Nice.
But Kirkman did a Marvel run called Irredeemable Ant-Man, which he helped on this. I haven't read that one. Is it any good, Will? Have you read it?
It's the one where Ant-Man spies on Captain Marvel in the shower. So it's it's a naughty run.
No. Okay.
Yeah, and that was like the third Ant-Man, wasn't it?
Yeah.
I forget his name. It's not Scott or Hank.
No. That's the other one. Yeah.
It's the third guy.
Else. Yeah, and I think I read that like years ago.
You did.
It's been a while, but yes. I think that was the first Ant-Man thing that I ever read.
Bad start.
Dip in, but...
Yeah. Now I'm fascinated because I was like, oh, it's written by Kirkman, it must be good. But I also know of that thing, and I'm like, interesting. I don't know if I will read it, or maybe I will. I'm curious now. I'm going back and forth in my head. But yeah, just a couple other things. Obviously, it's a TV show, which we mentioned already, and it's going to be a live-action film, which is still in development, it's being directed by Seth Rogen and Evan Goldberg, which is great. Could be amazing. Should be amazing, because I guess all the stuff that has come out of Invincible and The Walking Dead tends to be pretty good. I know The Walking Dead kind of dropped off later, but like he tends, because Kirkman like executive produces it, he has a lot of say, and I get the feeling that kind of shows in what ends up coming out the other end. And basically, just watch the TV show. I'm going to say it a lot of times, watch the TV show. I mentioned the Kind of Funny podcast earlier. Go watch that if you're curious about more about how the TV show came about and why it's different from the comics in some capacity. I just thought it was really interesting. I mean, watch all our podcasts first, but then go watch theirs. Because they're close friends with him, so it kind of goes a bit more into depth about a lot of the stuff. Also about being like a comic book writer and stuff, which is interesting.
Nice.
But yeah, that's kind of the facts and stuff. A lot about Robert Kirkman, because that's most of the facts that you're going to get with Invincible.
The facts section, did that have a name?
Yes, Comic Curiosities. I think I mentioned it at the start, but if not...
Yeah, that's the one. I might have missed that.
Yeah.
I miss everything, apparently. It's fine.
That's okay. Josh...
It's just my thing.
Yeah, it's Josh's thing. I'm remembering when we did House of M and he didn't realize it was Steve Rogers.
That's so funny.
That just gave me a good chuckle. Oh, dear. Well, with that, let's jump into the issue, shall we?
Let's do it.
So, we start off with a human bomb. Invincible is flying a human bomb into the sky, and he seems very unfazed by it all, which is definitely interesting. And then we cut straight to him reading comics on it's like 6 days previous. I can't remember, but basically he's reading comics on the toilet. And I'm like, I can relate, but I also feel sorry for him because he's using like his single comic books, reading them on the toilet. Obviously, that's going to get stuff on it.
A 3.0 now.
Yeah, that's terrible.
You get toilet gas in there, you're done.
No, exactly. And I feel sorry for him because it's like, it's 2003. You don't know better. Nowadays, we can just read them on our phone. It's great.
That's it.
True.
But yeah, I just feel a bit sorry for him, to be honest, because I'm like, as Will said, the quality of that, right down. Yeah. This toilet scene is like the first scene in the TV show, I'm pretty sure. It's like, and it's basically created one-to-one. There's a lot of the scenes that are like that. It's really good in that capacity. And then we kind of start learning about Invincible, Mark's his name. We start learning about Mark and his family. He goes downstairs and chats to his mum, and they start chatting about Dad and where's Dad. And they turn on the TV. Dad's fighting a giant kaiju in Taiwan, which is great. It's just great. And then there's a line that
casual this whole family.
It's so casual. There's a line his mum says where she's like, "I hope he brings back something nice for me. I've never been to Taiwan." And he's got that little bit of world building that clearly like it's a common thing that they go through.
Yeah.
And then Mark goes to school, hangs out with his friends a little bit. And then he's like to his friend William, "Oh, I gotta go to work, gotta do my day job." And you're like, this kid's the son of a superhero. I wonder what's going on here. And he goes to take the garbage out, throws the garbage bag in the air. Garbage bag just keeps going. And he just kind of looks and it's like, it's about time. Which is very cool reveal.
It's my favorite bit of the whole run. It's the only bit that, like, I just find it's a very strange comic because it feels very, maybe at the time it was very unique, but reading through it now, beyond these issues, because I read into like volume 4 or so, it definitely switches it up. But these first 8 issues are very like, this is kind of how I see all this going in terms of the kind of parental superhero figure and all that kind of, it's very Superman and his kids kind of thing. But this was a great like moment of discovery because of how simple it is. Usually it is like a huge moment when it's like, holy shit, I got powers. I love that this is just, he threw the trash and he's like, no, sick.
Yeah, totally.
This is it.
Yeah.
It's like he's been waiting for it and then it just happens. He's like, great.
Go.
Yeah, no, it's a very cool little reveal. I kind of agree with you in that, like, I was reading through these 8 issues and I was kind of like, it's a bit underwhelming. Granted, I've watched the TV show and I think the TV show takes it up a notch. And I think Robert has said multiple times that he's like, part of me making the TV show is correcting a lot of the stuff I didn't like about the comics. So, and I feel like going back and reading the comics afterward kind of shows that, although I'm sure they get into it a bit more in future issues because you've only got like 20 pages. But yeah, no, there's like some really neat little bits of that which I do like. And then I think we cut to the dinner table, which is a cute little scene. We start getting the family dynamics going on. Dad speeds back in and Mum has a conversation with him about writing a book. His publisher called and he's like, I'll just take the weekend off to write it. I'll go through a few keyboards. Again, loved a little bit of world building.
Yeah.
I feel really sorry for Mark because he's like, I got my powers finally. And his mum's like, can you pass the potatoes?
I have to, like, I don't know if you found in any of your notes. I'm intrigued to know if they drew this character to look like J.K. Simmons. Because it's like,
it looks
very
like
much
J.K. Simmons.
It looks both like J.K. Simmons and both like J. Jonah Jameson from the Spider-Man comic. It doesn't look like anyone else but that.
You can't unsee it. And I think it's even more interesting. I haven't really mentioned it yet, but the cast for the TV show is insane. Obviously, they got J.K. Simmons to do Invincible. They've got like Mahershala Ali in there. They've got Sandra Oh does the mum. Stephen Yeun, who was on The Walking Dead, does Mark Hamill's in it.
Mark Hamill's great in it.
Really?
Yeah.
Who else?
I didn't know any of this. I gotta look this up.
What's the guy? Mr. Krabs, who's in everything.
He
plays one of the things.
Yeah. There's just so many good cast members.
Dad. Okay.
Yeah. That's why I'm like, I wonder if it was.
But it
like
does it's so much like him, and like when you watch the TV show as well, you're like, wow, it's just the perfect voice and everything for it.
Yeah,
and Seth Rogen is in it.
Is in.
He is.
Makes sense why he would be then part of the live action.
He must just be like teamed up with Amazon because he's also like a producer on The Boys and has a few cameos throughout that show. So he must just weird. Like have a deal with them.
Yeah, it's interesting because for some reason, all I think of when I think of Seth Rogen is the movie Ted, which is not like a great movie. Like, but for some reason, that's always what pops into my head. So I'm like, the Ted guy. I know that's not all he did, but that's just the association I have with him.
Jon Hamm's in it too.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
All right. What a cast!
It's very good.
It's actually crazy. Good. Again, when we do the spoiler cast or whatever. We'll go into all that because there's some crazy pulls they get. because they continue to go through the series as well, and they just kind of keep coming, which is amazing. And then I just was going to point out at this point, which we're talking about the TV show, so it works pretty well. A lot of the early origin stuff for Mark's powers is handled like way better in the TV show. Basically, without going too much into spoilers or anything, he actually has to be like taught his powers and how to control them, whereas like in here he just flies immediately and then he's doing all his stuff immediately. There's no like, how do I deal with having this insane amount of power all of a sudden, which
I thought the flying was a little bit quick. Like it would have been cool to see him like fail just once.
Yeah, totally.
Like, jump off, because he just straight up wants to jump off the roof to see if he can activate it, and then he does, and he's like, cool. And then he just has complete control straight away, and is just like, sweet, I can fly now, and then just goes.
Yeah, but, totally.
Yeah, I was a little bit torn with that, because I'm like, it's just going to be like, it's the thing where it's like, oh, if I can fly, I can just jump off my roof and it'll work. But at the same time, the fact that it just works straight away, I'm like, I don't know if I liked any of that. Both happened too quick.
It's a really strange
what I was expecting, and like,
it's a weird run of comics as well, because I find that it's both sometimes very boring in how heavy on the dialogue it is, and like slow, but at the same time everything happens too fast. And it's like the things that I would like them to take time with, which I watched the first episode, and I totally get you, Ben. It's like the things I would like them to take time with in these comics, they seem to just skip through. And then they just sit and talk at a cafeteria for 4 pages. It's like, I don't care about this. Like, show me that other thing.
And I'm really curious, because like everything I've heard about the comics, and people are like, go read the comics if you like the show, because the comics are really good. And I'm like, I haven't really felt that yet. But like, there's 140 issues. It probably does get a lot better, and he probably grows into it, because this was still when like early on when he was writing his comics and stuff. So yeah, it's definitely interesting. There's some pacing issues for sure. We go to the Tailor at this point, who is the one who was played by Mark Hamill in the show, so I couldn't help but not read this in Mark Hamill's voice.
Nice.
And the iconic conversation about, it's hard to make a costume iconic. Everyone wants iconic. Is again basically put one for one in the TV show. And it's such a good conversation, because it's like all the superheroes come to me for iconic, but like I know your dad, and your dad is great. So like, give me something to work with. Give me a name, and we'll work on something, which is definitely...
It's funny that Robert Kirkman basically invented EndNote the year before Incredibles came out.
That's true.
Like, this is basically what she does. And in the same vein, it's like, I can't just do that. Like, give me something. Darling.
Yeah, definitely. Oh, that's so interesting. Cool. I literally watched... I literally watched Incredibles last night, but I nearly said Invincibles. Too much. Too much for my brain.
Nice. Yeah, I really like... that he sort of went like, give me some names, base it off that. Like, I really liked that kind of idea, instead of just like, I'll just make you whatever, it's fun.
A costume.
Totally.
It's kind of cool.
The name he picked is dumb though, and like
Invincible.
It's so bad. They really play into that in the TV show, which is great. I'm sure they do in future issues as well, but it's like, he's not. Like, eventually he's not. So it's like, my name's
totally
Invincible.
The name that a high school kid would pick, though, as soon as they heard it. Like, you're not invincible, I think is the line. And he's just like,
conversation with the principal.
Totally that's me.
Like,
you'd like 16, shut up.
But and there's like a hallway scene in school here, which like plays so much better in the TV show. He has his powers and beats up Derek in this one, but in the TV show, it happens before he has his powers, before he goes off to the Burger Mart and finds all that stuff out. And so it's actually like a character growth moment. Whereas in this one, it's like, I'm going to beat you up because I have powers now. But the outfit he gets at the end of this issue is pretty damn cool.
It is good. It's a bit of like Booster Gold kind of feeling.
Definitely. But it's, and I think it gets like different color variations throughout the whole run of comics, which is pretty cool. But yeah, that's basically all I have to say about this issue. But we've got some issue by issue comments from Dolphin Pants again, so we're going to dip back into SeaWorld. That's a cut from episode 1.
Nice. I was so confused. Like, what is SeaWorld? Why do we have SeaWorld? That's great.
But yeah, maybe Dolphin Pants says maybe it's because I watched the show first, but the pacing seems a bit rushed. Kind of going through that, and doesn't want the origin to go over multiple issues. And I think similar sentiments to me. Maybe I should have read the comic first, but personally, I find the show to be so much better than the comic. In saying that, I'm only on issue 1. I think actually it maybe like across the rest of the issues we'll get into in a second, it does get better. But definitely in the first issue, I was like, oh, okay, this is rough. And I see why they changed so much of it. Because there's clearly a lot of stuff he wanted to improve on.
Yeah, this is why I was thinking earlier, like reading at least the first few issues. I'm like, is this show actually an adult show? Like, why can't you watch this? Because this is so tame.
Yeah, it's
totally believe you, like everyone when they say don't watch it with your kids. But early on, it's like, man, this is just, it's kind of nothing. I'm surprised that people stuck with it and kept reading it.
It's really generic comic booky.
Nothing.
Yeah, it's like a teen who has superpowers and his dad's Superman. Like, that's literally what it is. And it's clear they're playing into that and they want you to think that. But I guess going back and reading it 18 years later, it's like,
It is tricky.
Yeah.
And
I guess also, like, just in that time period as well, we'd only really had... we would have had the first Spider-Man movie, and that's kind of it. So kind of the tropes of that also hadn't been on film. So if a lot of young teens were picking up this comic, they probably hadn't experienced this kind of storyline all that much yet. Whereas now we've had like so many Spider-Man, which is basically this. We've seen a couple of different Superman movies. It is so like tired, but maybe 2003.
And it's like, I guess he's playing into the tropes of the time. He's playing into what he knows comic book readers know at the time. And with the TV show, I think I've actually heard him say this, with the TV show, he's playing into what people now know about comic book characters and comic books. And so there's a very different dynamic that's going on there.
Clever.
Which makes a lot of sense, I guess. Moving on to issue 2, and we start with the origins of Omni-Man. Basically, he came from Krypton, which is called Viltrum in this. But it's like, it reads like super eerily and stuff, which I think is so cool. Like, you kind of, I've actually read the issue twice because I read it the other night, and then when I was making the notes today, I read it separately, and definitely going through it on the second time I'm reading it line by line. It's so messed up. It's clearly like they're like, it's a utopia where like everyone has superpowers and everything, but it's pretty clear it's been done by like eugenics and everyone looks the same. All the guys have a moustache, all the women are just the same ponytail. And it's like, these people are literally fascists and eugenicists. They have the World Betterment Committee where they go to other worlds to try and make them better.
Totally.
And
it's communism. It's like everyone gets and is the same.
Yeah, it's definitely, it's hitting that line between fascists and communism when you're like going on the political spectrum and you come back around and it's like
the two charts.
They come back around and they're basically the far ends of each of them. But then you get like Omni-Man talking about how he went off to Earth and was like, he was doing it because he thought Earth had a lot of potential, and it's cool how they're playing him off as this altruistic kind of happy man, Superman. Yeah, he's literally Superman. But like,
it's like if Superman had a choice.
Yeah, totally. But given where everything goes, it's like,
no,
this is definitely his version of the story. And this whole conversation he's having with Mark, where he's telling him about his origins, ends with the puberty talk, but it's like the superhero edition. It's like going through all the stuff that happens in puberty, and he's like, and you may get powers. And I'm like, it's cute. Very cute. Then Mark goes off on a little nighttime tryst around, nighttime fly around wherever it is they live. Is it made explicitly clear the city? Is it New York?
Well, like there's that one shot, like overhead shot later on, where you can kind of see the outskirts of the city, and it definitely looks like New York. But then, like the Batman guy comes from a different thing, so I don't know if this has got a different name.
But then Immortal is in Denver when they go through that as well.
It's something was in Utah, I think, at some point as well in this. So I don't know. I can't remember where that particular thing was, but I remember seeing Utah.
Yeah.
It possibly was just New York, because it definitely looks like there's a few shots that definitely looks like
like the Brooklyn Bridge and stuff. But he sees something going on down at a Toys B Wee, it's this blue guy, and he's trying to steal video games, I think, which is pretty cool. And then the teen team show up, and we got Robot. Let's see if I can remember these. Robot, Rexplode, Adam Eve, Duplicate, and is there one other one? Or is there just 4?
I think it's the 4, and then plus Invincible.
Plus Invincible. Yeah. And they're very cool. It's kind of like a little team up episode, and then
their names. Like,
totally.
Like Kate, because her name is Kate.
Yeah, it's great.
It's like very cool little Rex explode.
Robot.
Yes, Robot.
It's so clever.
Yeah.
Guess what he is, everybody?
Oh, I will also say, I know I said I wouldn't talk about voice actors anymore, but Rexplode, played by Jason Mantzoukas, if you don't know who he is, who does he play? He plays Dennis Feinstein in Parks and Rec. He plays... What's the other big thing he does? Oh, he's in Brooklyn Nine-Nine. He's the guy.
The Good Place. He's Janet's
Yeah.
Janet makes a version of a person, and he just keeps popping up.
Basically, amazing actor. Perfect for this character. And we get Adam Eve is like, "Do you look familiar?" And Mark's like, "You look familiar as well." Lo and behold, we find out the next day they know who each other are. They go to school together. The conversation's great. It's interesting. It's like, oh, we're both superheroes, blah, blah, blah. For some reason, I noticed there's a random guy walking past, and he's got I thought it was like, oh, he's got a hammer and sickle. He's just being like an out-and-out communist in the middle of his school. Good for him, I guess. And then I realized it has the thing around it, and it's like a Red Sun reference, like a Superman Red Sun reference. And I was like,
amazing.
That's very cool.
Still true.
Yeah. It's but it was just a cool little Easter egg that I noticed.
There are some funny little references like that throughout, like on people's t-shirts.
Oh yeah, and names of the mall is called, what's it called? That we get at the end of this one. Twin Pines Mall, Back to the Future. There's a bunch of stuff. Obviously, Toys B Wee.
Yeah, I think later there's someone with a shirt that says Magnum and then the symbol for pi.
Yeah.
The show Magnum PI.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Oh, and you know what? I was looking at that shirt and I was like, I don't get it. And then when you brought that up again, I was like, oh, of course that's what it is. Just for some reason, my brain wasn't making that connection when I was actually reading it.
Some dumb pun.
I was like, I can tell you're making a reference here, but I don't... What's the reference?
I don't understand the back of the shirt. It says "Take it, Jason" or something.
Yeah, I haven't watched the show.
What does that mean?
But it's still a cool reference. And then we get a bit more information about the Mauler twins, the 2 blue guys. And the way they introduce them here is a bit better than in the show, in my opinion. One of the first times I think they do something a bit better here. But you kind of get the feeling that they're doing some interesting stuff with robots and everything. And then we find out that the human bombs that we saw at the start of the first issue, they're now teenagers, which is messed up. And you start to be like, oh, okay, maybe this isn't quite the happy, chill comic book experience we were all looking for. Yeah. And that's how that issue kind of wraps up.
At the same time, that could be an amazing Spider-Man run. But where it ends up is certainly not true. Happy and chill.
That's true. Yes. I mean, it could very much be in another comic book, and they don't show anything that's particularly graphic or anything. But it is a little bit messed up.
They keep going.
Yeah. Dipping back into SeaWorld, Twin Pines Mall. That's cool. Yep. It is very cool. And Don Pants also mentions that he really likes the idea of the teen team and that he wishes they had more time to explain each character like they did in the show. And yeah, again, I think just because the TV show has like 40-minute episodes, there's just so much more time to flesh out of these characters. I just remembered another voice actor, Gillian Jacobs, so like Britta from Community, plays Adam Eve. Yeah, sorry. This could be me being like, oh, that character is so good. Yeah, they just go nuts with it all. It's great. I want to know.
Oh, you go.
Oh no, I was just like, I want to know what it was like in like the casting room when they're like, Robert must have been like, can we get this person? And they're like, yeah, we can. We're Amazon.
Yeah. Damn it.
It's gone.
Oh no. I hate it when this happens. I always feel so bad. I'm like, I push that thought out of that person's head. What was it, Josh? It's okay. It's okay.
It's fine. Don't worry about it. It's nothing.
Man. Okay. That's good. With that, we'll move on to issue 3. We start off with the principal kind of giving a... what do they call them? Assemblies? That's what they call them. He's kind of giving an assembly to all the kids, being like, all these kids are missing. And he's just pretty chill about it. He's like, don't go out. Don't go. Just stay in your groups and everything. Don't be safe. And I'm like, dude, 4 of your students are missing.
Yeah.
I'd be like shutting down the school.
It's one of those things where it's like 1 goes missing in the same school. Yeah, okay, whatever. 2, bit strange, but beyond 2, it's like, no, that's the school's problem.
And also you haven't found any of them yet.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a point where he's just like, maybe they just did this by themselves and that was planned.
Yeah.
It's like,
yeah, and I think
I feel like you would have like found a clue by now.
Yeah, I think is it this issue? Yeah, no, literally the next note I have, Mark is talking to Eve and he's like, it couldn't have happened to a nicer bunch of guys. And I'm like, does no one care about them? Like, I get they were probably assholes and stuff, but it's like, they're missing. This is a bad thing. But then we go back to Burger Mart and the boss just sucks, like every hospitality boss. If you've worked in hospitality, you know what I mean. They don't all suck, but most of them do. And I'm proud of Mark for being like, I quit. Good on him. He's out of there. He doesn't need it.
Oh yeah.
But I like, he's like, oh, Dad's gonna kill me. And then the next scene, his dad's like,
you could probably quit.
You can quit the job. And he's like, yes. And then we have a little team up, father and son team up, which happens way earlier than I was expecting it to. Because in the TV show, it happens much later episode. Because there's obviously the training time that they go through that. And then it's finally like, oh, we do a team up now. So this was like issue 3, and I was like, oh, okay, we're just doing this. And they go to fight aliens, and just brought into my head, you know, the big 3: aliens, robots, wizards.
Yeah.
This is one of them, and a whole army of them. I do love the twist they do here is great though, where they like start aging, and then Omni-Man just somehow immediately deduces, he's like, oh, time must work differently in their dimension.
Yep.
Yeah.
You've been doing this for a while, so
yeah, definitely.
Potentially come up before.
It's one of these.
But it's like, it's very much like, yeah, you know everything, you're incredibly smart, you're Superman, we get it.
Yep.
And Mark finds out that the missing kids were the bombs, and his dad gets taken to another dimension in like the space of 2 seconds. Yeah. And then he just flies home. He's just like, Dad got taken. And I'm like, okay.
So nonchalant. Everything's so just
and I'm like, does no one care about what's going on here?
Yeah. And his mum's just like, oh, well, more pork chops for us. Like, just so casual.
They do go into it a bit in the next issue where it's like, I think Mark and his mum are having a conversation, and like, Dad's taken a while to get back, and they have a conversation about how Mr. Birthday and stuff at one point. But it's just like there's no weight to it at the end here. Like it's a cliffhanger, I guess. But at the same time, I'm like, why is no one upset? Why is no one upset?
Interesting though, because every time I see the mum, I'm like, she hates her life. I feel like this whole time, like, she says these things and she seems so okay with everything.
Yeah.
At the same time, you're just like, she's not happy. Like, you are just you are not loving this at all.
Yeah, and also it's a little bit the art of her, but also just like her character is so incredibly bland in these comics compared to what they do in the TV show.
Yeah.
And like, yeah, she kind of she has a few heartfelt lines in this, but there's some really good stuff they go into with her character, and her character plays a much bigger role in that. So it's kind of a little bit disappointing. I did actually know going into reading these, I had heard that was the case, so I was prepared for it. But it's still a little bit disappointing because I'm like, wow, you just are there.
Yeah. And she clearly feels like that too.
Yeah, totally.
She's just there.
She's just there.
Family goes out and does
she doesn't have superpowers. She's just there.
Yeah.
Dolphin Pants mentions the aliens thing. This is the first time he prefers something in the comics rather than the TV show, which is interesting because I thought it was incredibly boring in comparison to that. So a little bit of point of difference there. I really apologize. I'm just like, the TV show does this better, the TV show does this worse. But
it's good to know.
But again, as I said earlier, watch the TV show. And the missing student thing is actually kind of interesting. I think that's a pretty unique story plot here, and it is the thing that pulled me in the most when I was reading these. I was like, okay, what's going on here? I thought it was leading into something that I'd already watched, but it wasn't. It led into a completely different thing.
Okay.
That's cool.
Yeah. All right, let's go. Issue 4. What is this one? This one is the teenage human bombs. The lack of distress people have over them is very concerning. Again, Mark's just... I think they have a conversation at the family dinner table at some point in this episode, and he's like going through everything that happened. And it's just like, why does no one care?
Yeah. Because his dad finally comes back.
Yeah.
And the mum's just like, oh, anything happened, like interesting happened to you guys? And then Mark talks about that. His dad talks about how he was like trapped somewhere for 8 months or 6 months or something. And and then she's like, oh, lovely.
Yeah, totally.
And I also feel like the panels where the people are exploding, there's not enough chaos. Like it always just looks like, the explosion happens, everyone's like, oh shit, well
I almost think they could have done well to like have the gore at this point. Like, I get you're trying to mislead people, but it's like, that would be more jarring. Like, I get it's teenagers, it's messed up, but given where your comic series goes, it is all messed up. Yeah. So like, don't clutch your pearls too close to you. I'm kind of just going to go back and forth with the storyline. So we get the reveal in this one that the teacher that we've been seeing across a bunch of these issues decided to create organic bombs of the students he didn't like because I think his son committed suicide, and he was like, all these kids get to live, so all these arsehole kids get to live, so I'm going to make them into bombs. Terrible person. Absolutely horrible.
It sounds like his son committed suicide due to bullies.
Yeah.
So he's going after the cool kids.
Yeah, and it's like...
They're essentially just bullies.
I'm like, yeah, obviously it sucks that they bullied your son to a point where that happened. That really sucks, but like at the same time, not the way
to deal with it.
Not the way to deal with it.
Not the way.
Yeah.
But what
it really is just a messed up Spider-Man villain.
Oh, like, totally.
Like an early issue Spider-Man, like the Vulture or the Tinkerer or something. It's like, you could see it, but they would never push it this far.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. And what I was like, but what I was obsessed with while I was reading this entire issue was the fact that it's really unclear, given the way the pages are laid out, that they jump back and forth. There's a bit where they're going through Mayan mythology, which is a mythology nerd really into. It was really, really weird, and there's something about spitting in another person and it creating a baby.
Yeah,
anyway,
spit in their hand, and she gets pregnant.
Spit in their hand and impregnate her, and I'm like,
that easy?
Mythology is wild. I love just hearing the really random stuff from all these obscure mythologies that there is. So I was really into that bit, but I got really confused and this happened both times I read it. I only finally caught on what was happening the second time. But basically, they're having that conversation, then Eve and Mark have a conversation in class where they're like, did you find anything? And he's like, no. And then they reveal that it was the teacher. And they call him a physics teacher. And I was like, he wasn't teaching physics. He was teaching mythology. That is far opposite. That's not what he is at all.
Yeah.
And then I went back and I looked at the pages this time and I was like, okay, what's going on here? Turns out it's so hard to notice because of the way they frame it. But those 3 panels where they're going through the mythology, there are different students around him. So it is a different class. Yeah, I know.
Great
it's
choice.
like, I'm like, interesting. You maybe could have made that a bit more clear because I get this is trying to be like a big issue where a lot of stuff goes on. And that is literally all I could think about was he's not a physics teacher.
Yeah. So that means the stuff like about Mayan history almost doesn't matter. They didn't need to have that in the class.
No, it didn't at all.
Right, I think obviously just liked it.
Yeah. I mean, I think the point of it was that, like, because they cut to Eve and Eve's like, oh, did you find any information? He was falling asleep during the class. So I think it's like saying, oh, he didn't do any of the stuff he was supposed to do, find out any of the information he was supposed to. Yeah. But like, come on, dude. Like, just make it a bit clearer, because it really distracted me, and I hate that it distracted me because it's a cool issue. Other than that, we find out about this physics teacher, and that story stuff is interesting.
Yeah.
But I was so distracted. We do get the dumpster reveal in this. That they go to the dumpster to get changed for their superhero endeavors. And then we get a cool callback to it in a later issue where Eve and Mark go to the dumpster again, and then there's just a couple kissing in there, and they're like, "Get your own space.
Get your own spot."
Yeah. But I'm also like, is the dumpster always empty? Is like, what's going on there? Yeah.
Seems that way. Yeah.
And a couple more bits from SeaWorld. We got the teacher addresses Eve just flat out not wearing a mask, and he's like, he identifies them when they come to arrest him or fight him or whatever. Yeah. And he's like, well, for one, I noticed your face, Mark, but Eve, you don't even wear a mask. Like, it's pretty obvious. Yeah. Which I appreciated a lot. And yeah, Dolphin Pants is also like, I'm starting to enjoy this more, and I kind of agree. It's definitely picks up a bit at this point, but still doesn't quite have the gravitas that I would like it to.
I think we kind of missed maybe a big thing in this, because this is where, like, you find out about the kids, but then the teacher has done it to himself.
Oh, yes.
And so
from we did miss a big thing, yes. Yes, that was the start of issue 1.
Yeah, so he reveals that he's a bomb as well, but it's like 50 seconds left, and the teacher's like, we're just going to have to wait a little while for this. I started this, like...
That's on this monologue, like...
When you got there, So he's like, I'm not waiting for this, and flies him to Antarctica.
Oh, yeah. Thank you so much for bringing that up, because I forgot. Yeah. Man, that is...
It's kind of... That's almost like the end of that storyline, I guess, unless it comes back later.
Yeah.
But the first 4 issues is that whole arc about it's disappearing. That's the end. That's found the bad guy.
Close that loop.
Defeated him. That was it.
Totally.
As someone in 2003, I don't think I would continue collecting these comics.
Yeah.
I'd be like,
that's what I mean. I'm surprised people kept going. Like,
I almost wonder.
I guess again, this could be some people's first comic, like some teenagers' first comic, and it could have been like, "Whoa, that was really cool," and then they just keep collecting them for whatever reason, and now they're very wealthy.
I almost part of the reason I like really want to keep reading it is because I want to know where people got pulled. I'm sure issue 7 is like part of it, but for sure. I want to know like what was. It must have picked up somewhere in the middle of the run, because up until like what we've read so far, and like what we kind of get to with issue 8 and stuff, it's good, but it's nothing I haven't seen before. So I'm very. That's the reason I want to keep reading. Maybe it's not the reason they did 10 for, but
well, it's a twist that like as the show kind of does. It's like it should happen within the first 2 issues of your comic if you want to hook me in. And this is like takes the whole 8 issues. I'm like, okay, I'm a little interested.
Yeah. Like they definitely fixed that pacing issue, and I think I think they were like even worried that with the first episode of the show, like part of like people wouldn't watch the full 40 minutes because I'm sure what you guys have done it. I've done it at points where I'll start watching something, I'll be like, it's whatever, and then I'll stop. And it's like kind of I do that with comics, but it's normally a few issues as well. If I didn't know that this was such a successful thing, I'd probably get to issue 4 and I'd be like, whatever. I gotta read something else. But with the TV show, they definitely condense it all. They found
a very interesting way to begin it as well.
Yes.
Like, it's such a different way of starting in it. I think it definitely helps.
Yes.
It helps you care about it, which is cool.
Yes, definitely. Anyway, we'll jump into like, these 4 issues are less of like an arc, I'd say, but these are the next volume. Issue 5 is a pretty simple one. It's the space fight. We get a space fight with Alan the alien. In the show, voiced by Seth Rogen. That's the job he gets. And if you've read this comic, you can very much understand why he gets to voice that character.
Yeah, now that you've said that, I'm like, yep. Sick. That's great.
It's a brilliant. This is maybe actually like one of just the best issues out of these 8. In my opinion,
this is my favorite one of the 8 we read.
Yeah,
I think it's the most like end to end. It's like the most enjoyable.
It'll be interesting. It's probably the one I have the least to say about, but I do really like it just because it's like a nice condensed storyline.
Yeah.
But it's brilliant. He like Mark and his dad having a conversation about like, oh, how do I breathe in space? And his dad's like, oh, you just hold your breath. And he's like, oh, I never thought of that. And then at one point he gets beat back down to Earth so he can let his breath out, and then he goes back up and he's like, oh, I really needed that. Thanks. You gave me my energy back.
Yeah, his dad's like, I can hold my breath for 2 weeks, so you should be able to do it for like an hour.
Yeah.
It's great.
Yeah.
And then obviously like they kind of go through the battle and Mark's like, this is weird. What's going on? And then he's like, oh, you're entitled to a break. And Mark's like, what? What's going on? And so they sit down on the moon and they have a little conversation. They have their break. And Alan is like, oh, I'm part of the coalition of planets and we test the defenses of every planet that decides to be a part of the coalition. And Mark's like, oh, I doubt Earth would have decided to do that. And he's like, oh, no, you're definitely on my list. Urath. And he's like, that's not the name of our planet. And I feel really sorry for Alan because he's like, I'm probably going to get fired for this. Like, this sucks. And I'm like,
best.
Yeah. It's like, they're pretty similar. I hope you don't get fired. I hope you go back and they're just like, honest mistake. But then he does also mention that it's like lost years, like because of this, like 15 years or something. And I'm like, man, poor guy. Poor Seth Rogen. He's doing well.
Poor.
Yeah, he's
got anything he wants. He's not poor.
He's got plenty. But yeah. My God.
Accurate. Very accurate.
I was not expecting that, but thank you, Will. Thank you so much.
That's all right.
Yes, and then as I said, this is the one I have the least to say about, but it's also the best issue. Dolphin Pants says that it makes flying through space look pretty nice, and it does. In reality, I'd be terrified of it because space is terrifying. But it makes it look very, very pretty.
I would say that like the action of these comics, I think, is the best action I've seen. It's the cleanest, but like I can see what's going on, and there's so many Marvel issues where I'm like, this looks cool, but I'm like, I don't know what you're actually doing.
Busy.
Every hit is landing, and every shot is purposeful.
The lack of detail, but like it's intentional lack of detail helps. In the art in these comics, I totally agree because I think, especially when we were like reading Falcon and Winter Soldier last month, I was like, this is good, but I can very barely tell what's actually going on in the fight. I have to look closely for particular things, but I definitely, that's one of the strengths of these comics for sure. And yeah, this is an episode of the TV show. I think it's like maybe a full episode. No, maybe it's just a part of it. And they go again to space. I don't know. Anyway, it's a great episode. Dolphin Pants says it's a great episode, and I agree.
Good. I'm keen to watch that one.
The Seth Rogen performance is wonderful. He's literally the perfect casting.
When Invincible goes back home and has a conversation with his dad. He just had the wrong planet for like the last 15 years.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like, and his mum talking to the dad after he goes, and it's just like, maybe you should use your brains more than your brawn. And the dad's like, lucky first try.
It's such a strange, like,
it's great.
I can't remember where it all ends up in terms of what we're talking about, but it's so strange reading and thinking about a lot of these character interactions, considering where everything goes with his character. Like, there's such a weird edge to it, knowing what he is.
Definitely. There's like, it definitely almost helps in a way knowing the twist, like, because you read into everything a little bit more. And that's definitely, I think, what happened when we were talking about when he goes through the origins. Like, it's very, I think, especially because I know what was going on, it's very easy to read into it and be like, okay.
Totally. Yeah.
This is pretty messed up. But definitely this conversation, he has an edge.
Where he's like, I wanted a bunch of dirt.
And I think, I forgot to mention it, but in the last issue, a couple issues ago, issue 3, when they're battling the aliens, you do notice he has like a little temper tantrum, and there's a great panel where he's in shadow and his eyes are just red. And then he like throws their ship back into the portal and like yells, and Mark's like, whoa, chill. Yeah.
You're good, Dad.
Yeah.
Oh, I think in issue 5 as well, the garbage that he threw in issue 1 comes down in England.
Yes. Yes. It's the next issue, which we'll jump into anyway. But in issue 6, the garbage bag comes back down, and it's very cool. And I'm like, yes, I'm glad they paid that off. Again, they pay it off in the TV show as well. Almost even better this time.
Cool.
Yeah. To the point where I didn't actually realize
it was the same
it was the same thing, but it's also hilarious. Anyway, this is issue 6. They have Super Baseball at the start of this, which is great. But as they're playing baseball, which they throw around the world, in the sky, just flying in their suits, having a father and son conversation. It's like a really good juxtaposition, because you got this visually interesting thing going on in the panel, and then they're having this big exposition conversation about the aliens and where his dad was and what actually happened, which I thought was very cool. For those writers who don't know how to do exposition, this is how you do it. This is how you keep it interesting. Give us something good to look at while we're reading it. And then then they fly back into the house, and Debbie's just like sitting at the kitchen, and is like, I told you no flying in the house. Like, I feel very sorry for her, because I'd also be pissed if they just flew through at supersonic speeds making food, and then it just all flies away. Very annoying. Yeah.
Again, she just exists.
She just exists.
She's such a prop.
Yeah. Yeah, but she does have some good lines for sure. On this occasion. And then we go to the Teen Team's hideout, and we find out that Robot has been recruited by the Guardians of the Globe, who have been name dropped at various points in time. And so the Teen Team is now over, which felt very dramatic. I was like, there's 3 other members. Were you the linchpin, Robot? Like, I don't know, dude.
Yeah.
Bit of an ego going on there. And then this is also the issue where they go to the university, and like,
this is weird.
I found this really boring. It's like half an issue here, basically, and it's dedicated a whole episode of the TV show, and it is maybe like the best episode of it. And I was like, I reckon it's because they pulled from later issues, because there's bits of the storyline that very much feel like that. But it just felt kind of like plopped in here. I think Dolphin Pants mentioned as well that it's just like, that's it for this storyline, because we've both watched the show. And I was and they just, also the reason they're going for is really uninteresting. It's like, oh, just going to check out colleges, which they change all of that for the better, in my opinion.
Good. There's also just that weird stuff that where William is annoyed that people are calling him Bill and stuff.
Oh, that's that as well.
Like, I'm sure that's building somewhere. Like, maybe he has a little Ned Leeds hobgoblin situation, but it's like, it's so, because the dude's been fairly quiet up until this point. Yeah. It's like, why is he such a little aggressor now? What's happened?
Yeah. But he also like brings that up. He's like, I hate being pissed about this, but everyone should just call me by my name.
Yeah.
I must say,
it's like, don't bring it up, just don't write it in.
As a Ben and a Benjamin, I don't care. Yeah. I mean, I'm just like, it's easier to say Ben, but I'm not going to care that much if you call me Benjamin. I'm sure Will's the same. I saw Josh is the same. We all have those names.
We've all got it. We've all got one of those names. We don't care. Just as long as you're talking to us.
It just feels, as you said, Will, it just feels like unnecessary to write it in, but whatever. He's also a womanizer in this, whereas it's a very big part of his character that he's gay in the show. So I wonder if he's closeted at this point.
Yeah, maybe.
Again, very curious, but it's a weird trait for his character to have. Just felt, again, a lot of his character development just feels unnecessary now that I think about it. It's just like, I don't care about you.
He's no Harry.
He's no Harry, no. No, for sure. But then the ending of this episode, very cool. Issue. I've been thinking about the TV show too much. I'm sorry.
I've done it a couple of times.
I'm sure I have. But yeah, so the ending is very cool. Mark flies back. No, he gets back to the house, comes in the front door. The parents were having sex. And then Nan has to like get them ready quickly and fly them downstairs. And there's a little gag about how he put
his shirt on
backwards. And I'm like, this is a good gag. You got me there. And then we get a reveal about Eve, or like a cliffhanger with Eve at the end, which is very cool. And like the way it goes in the next issue, where it ends up, or in issue 8 or whatever, where we find out that it was Rex cheating on her with Duplicate, is like it's just condensed into one scene in the TV show, but the fact that there's a cliffhanger here, so it seems like someone's like dead or something, I thought is really cool.
Sure what's going on.
Because I was like, I read it and I was like, oh, what's going on? I don't know what's going on here. And then I thought about it, I was like, oh, I see what they've done. And I'm like, that was one of the things where I was like, man, this is a really cool alternative way to do that little bit of story. Cool. So I like that a lot. I love that cliffhanger. Very good.
Yeah, that's good.
And then onto the big one. The big one. Not in terms of maybe talking about things again, but it's the big issue in terms of content. It's issue 7, and we are jumping back and forth between the Guardians of the Globe, who are just the Justice League. We start in Midnight City at 9 a.m., which is wonderful. And the two guys.
I never thought about that. That's fantastic.
The two cops, not cops, bad guys are talking about how like the reason that's the case is because Midnight Magician committed suicide to make it permanently midnight, which is just brilliant.
A weird little bit, yeah.
I love it. It's Darkwing. He's Batman. Holy smokes. Then we cut to Red Rush in Russia, who's just the Flash. He's on a date, but he keeps jumping back and forth between the date to go do superhero stuff, and she just gets annoyed. Another brilliant introduction. Then we have War Woman in Boston. Basically, we get full nudity here as well, which is this is the first moment where you're like, okay, not kids.
And
full nudity, but things are still covered. Just side nude and arm covering boots.
Yeah, true, but it's pretty. It's pretty there.
And also, it's for me. This is one of the ones I was very happy with, where they diverted, because a lot of these little vignettes are very similar in the show.
Oh yeah, and they're all in the first episode. I forgot about that. So you will have seen
they're
them.
all in the first episode as well. And like her bit is far and away better. Although they drop the bit where the god comes in and is like, "You need to come home," which is unfortunate, because that was a cool bit.
That was very cool. And also like she's gay in this, and her partner just dealing with everything remarkably well. Just God like comes in and she turns into the superhero, and her partner's like, "Oh, I see you again." And she's like, "Yeah, just get a bigger house in case this happens again.
I'll pay for it. I'll fix it up."
Yeah.
And then I think I wonder if this is an allusion to no one caring about Aquaman, but we just get one page of the fish guy, and we don't even get his name. His name is Aquarius, but
he's just bored as shit. Nothing's happening.
No one cares. Which
he
is
seems
good.
so excited. He's been summoned.
Yeah. And then
so good.
the next up is in space. We have Martian Man and Green Ghost, which Martian Manhunter, Green Lantern. I love the way Green Ghost, he like has to swallow a thing and puke it out every time instead of the ring, which is just amazing.
So good. It's great.
And
bring him up in the show, but the Green Lantern in the show is drastically different.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, it is. But it is drastically different. It's like, it's a black woman, right? I think.
Yeah, and she like very coolly just slips it like a Mentos in her mouth and then flies off.
Yeah,
and it's like there's no bit to it all. It's like it's fine.
Yeah,
it's a weird change. I guess maybe. Yeah. I get like it's as fast paced as it is in this. But I guess they maybe didn't have time for the gag. But
it's probably like
gag.
It's like probably unnecessary, but I do love the way they introduced here, and they're having a little fight in space, and then they turn back.
The sick is still on
they turn back into their human forms for a second, and then they get the call from the Guardians thing, and then they turn back, and the sick.
He's like, oh.
It's very good. You get Immortal, which is clearly they're Superman, but not. But it's weird. Anyway, he's fighting in Denver, Colorado.
There you go.
Fighting the Vulture, apparently.
Yeah,
totally. There's a bit of a crossover from here. There's some interesting. Very much.
It's very much in your
Marvel
face.
Villains.
It's very clear what they're doing. It's the Justice League and it's Marvel villains, and we get it. But they do. This is probably the equal best issue with Fire, I reckon, because they just the way they flash between everything and they each have their own little bits is very cool, especially because they all get killed at the end of this. So it's like they're setting up all these characters and they kill them at the end of the comic.
Totally.
Man, we talk about how like it hasn't really been that amazing up till now, but I imagine if you were reading this and it was like your monthly comics and you pull this one open and you're like, oh, they're finally introducing us to these characters. And at the end, they literally just tear it all down.
Yeah.
Yeah. So good.
Very good.
And my last note was that's the end of Zack Snyder's Justice League Part 7.
Very good.
Yeah. I was very, very proud of that joke when I wrote it. So, you all had to hear it.
Yeah, good. It's a great bit.
I might have missed something. I feel like I zoned out for a sec. Did we mention how they died?
Yeah.
Oh, no, we didn't.
We missed that.
We did miss that.
Not in the notes.
It's not in the notes, I think, because I just knew it and had been talking about it. Yeah, Omni-Man comes in and kills them. It's
That's a little bad.
Yeah. It's very good scene in this. Also very good scene in the TV show. Incredibly gory. These comics are bad when, not bad. These comics go heavy in on the gore, but the TV show is like, it's a lot. If you don't like gore, I know I've been saying watch the TV show, but maybe don't.
It's like, it's so funny watching it and realizing it was Amazon as well, because the watermark's down the corner. I'm like, oh, it's the boys.
The boys,
It's literally just the boys. They've just Amazon have claimed superheroes that are R-rated.
Yes, basically. Yeah. Dolphin Pants has a couple more comments here. He says, when in doubt, throw them into space, which is what Immortal says, which I'm like, it's a good line. Very good line.
So good.
I preferred the TV intro to the Guardians, but it wasn't half bad. Yeah, I mean, they do go through a lot of this, though, in the TV show as well. So it's kind of like they do flesh them out a little bit more in the one episode they're in. And yeah, very great ending. Dolphin Pants doesn't like it as much as the series. I just think they're different. But both very good, in my opinion. But yeah, outstanding comic, this one. Very good.
Very good. Very good.
Yeah, I like it a lot.
Kind of, really picks up.
Really picks up. And man, I do really want to read more now. I'm going to read more after we finish recording this. It's going to be great.
Definitely.
Issue 8 starts with them talking about Eve comes in and is like ranting to Mark about Duplicate and Rex and stuff, calls her a multi-slut. So they really are just... They've given up all pretense of being a normal comic book at this point. And the framing at the bottom of this page is also spectacular, where they're like having their conversation and Eve rests her head on Mark, just like so he can comfort her, and then her mum comes in and it shows the perspective of the mum and it looks like something very much different. You can use your imagination. And she's like, get out of here now. Come downstairs. We're having a conversation. And that was so good. I was like genuinely cracked up laughing in my room by myself because I was like, you got me there. You did well. Finally, Debbie, you're doing something.
Meanwhile, they're just banging and they don't care that he saw her. Like,
I know.
Double standards there.
It is a double standards. Yeah, that is true. And then we find out that Derek's still alive but has a metal torso. The bully that Mark punches in the other episode, he's back, and he's like, "Hey, Mark's like, glad to see you back," and Derek's just like, "Thanks." And it's all right.
Awkward,
it's
little
cool.
Shy thing.
Little bit shy. They definitely had their best people on it to get him back alive because, like, I don't know, like he had a bomb in him. Whatever, just move on. Comic book stuff. We just got to deal with it. That's what happens. I did want to point out here. I hate the phrase "little girl's room." Eve uses the phrase "little girl's room." I know it's the thing that they call the bathroom, but it's like it's horrible. Why does anyone say that?
It's a weird thing to hear.
Definitely.
Especially reading it, I don't know. Just, it feels weird. I don't like it. Again, 2003. But we'll move on. Elephant Man. There's just a random page with Elephant Man in this. I hope
basically the rhino.
Basically the rhino, but I feel bad for him because he just kind of is barely mentioned. I hope he gets time in the sun. He's a cool little character. And we have a really messed up funeral for the Guardians where Omni-Man, who obviously we know is the killer, is giving the eulogy, and the butler of another guy who we get a bunch of exposition about. Can't remember his name. He's in the TV show as well, but we don't get a lot about him in these issues. But basically, he comes and just like starts blowing things up at a funeral. And there's a cute little line at the end of it where Mark is like to someone, "Is this what the funerals are always like?" And they're like, "Yeah. And this is what all the superhero funerals are like," which I did appreciate. They at least are acknowledging it. But the Mauler twins are back, which is cool. They show up for the funeral, and they seem like they're just being their cool, chill selves.
They're just like, we're just here to pay respects.
We're just here to pay respects.
Some people that we fought a lot, and respect for that.
Yeah, definitely. But I do love these characters. They have a big arc in the first season of the TV show. If you like them in the comics, you'll be in for a nice little surprise there. And then we head back to the Teen Team's headquarters, and Rex is just like openly making out with Duplicate when Eve flies in, and I'm like, he's like, "Oh, wait up, like I didn't mean it." I'm like, that's not cool. Like, you've messed up. You cheated on your girlfriend, and now openly in the hideout of your team that she goes to, you're doing it. Like, you're just an asshole, dude.
In front of like Robot being there as well. He's hanging out too. Like,
I hate him. I hate him so much, but
He's a dick.
yeah. And then we get Mark takes William for a flight, and he says, "Man, this is gay," which is just like, ooh.
Remember when all the people said that word and they all grew up?
Yeah, and it's just it does not land well.
No.
But you know, it was 2003.
Yeah, maybe it is like a seed of possibly
maybe, and like I don't want to defend it or anything, but like it could be a seed of that. It is also just 18 years ago. People said that. Doesn't mean it's okay, but it's definitely definitely read it, and I'm like, oh dear. Okay, moving on.
Now that you've brought up that, like how long ago it was, I was just thinking to myself, I was 12.
Oh my god,
this is insane. Like Will was what, like 6?
6, yeah.
Will was 6. I was 4.
Crazy.
It's crazy.
That's bizarre.
Crazy.
None of us could have been reading this comic.
No, this is the year. That's the year I moved to Melbourne, actually. So that's that long ago.
Maybe I could have. I would have been
maybe.
Like I shouldn't have been.
Yeah,
but you know,
but your parents might like not have realized, you know, and you would have been like, "Oh, sick! I got to read this."
My first movie was Batman Begins at the cinema, so it's like, I was already in there. Crazy.
And then we get Derek pissing on a grave, and like I know it's normally not cool to do that, but like I don't blame him because it's the grave of the teacher who was turned him into a bomb. So like in this case, fair.
Also, Derek can pee.
Yeah,
I guess he's got a dick.
I guess so. But does he have a bladder? Because his whole torso is.
Yeah, that's what I'm wondering. Like,
again, how is he alive? How did they do that?
It might be a gag that it's like oil or something.
That's true. That's true. It could be.
It would have been funnier if it was like black.
Yeah.
Just black pee, because it's still yellow.
Yeah.
It would have been good.
Yeah. Dolphin Fans' comments on this final issue as well. Very similar to a lot of what we've mentioned. Just like unfortunate stuff they said with when Mark flies William, the butler shows up, and the multi-sluts thing, and then they introduce a character in this issue that Amber, who Mark gets a number from at the very start, who is a big character in the TV show and is much more interesting. I to be fair, I haven't read beyond this issue, but from what I can tell, is so much more interesting in the TV show.
Yeah, it's very quick. Yeah,
I was surprised I was surprised when she showed up and she was who she was. And we get the Mauler twins, kind of getting Immortal's body at the end of this, which is the final cliffhanger of these 4 issues, which is interesting.
It really is Zack Snyder's Justice League.
It is quite literally. This is part 8. And then it was interesting because I realized that this is a story arc that gets covered in the TV show. They go beyond what is here. But I realized that I didn't actually, at that point in the TV show, when this scene happens, I didn't realize that was what they were doing. And so I got really confused when they follow it up in the TV show. Right. And they have the body, and I was like, what the heck? How did that happen?
When did that happen?
So now I've re-provided myself context for it, which is very useful.
Amazing.
But
that's just the end of it. It kind of just ends. Yeah. It's such a weird, I guess,
like having read up to volume 4, like this is a bizarre place for this volume to finish. And I know they're kind of breaking it up into 4 issues, so that's kind of just where it sits. They definitely, having read issue 9, that's the issue that this volume should have closed out.
Right. Okay.
That's really interesting. But it definitely, as an 8-issue thing that we're doing this podcast on, it's a very weird spot to.
It's like when we did Ms. Marvel, and it was kind of like, it's the Birdman. I want to know who the Birdman is.
I still haven't gone back to continue reading that, but I keep thinking about it.
Oh, you need to find out who the Birdman is.
I should find it. I should at least just read issue 6 just to find out more.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
All
right. We just got a few final viewer comments, and then we'll let you know what we're doing for next month. But just to run through these last little bits, Jade has a lot, so I'll do Dolphin Pants first, because Dolphin Pants just has an overall summing up thing where he says, yeah, look, it was good, but watch the series, it's so much better, which, I've said multiple times across this episode. Watch the series, it's so good. If you like this at all, you will love the series.
That makes sense, since you've already said that Robert Kirkman made the series in a way to correct everything he doesn't like about the comics.
Totally.
So it makes so much sense.
He was like, I wanted to be a faithful adaptation, but I also wanted to update it to exist in 2021, which is good. It's not like
they don't have the lines of issue 8.
Yeah, totally. No, they very much don't. And the character himself is gay from the start, so
he's
it's
flat out gay.
Yeah, it's like so much better. And Don Pan's like, I'm not even sorry. It's just a superior version in all ways. I am very curious. I almost want to do a follow-up of this at some point, or just like a chat if we all end up reading more of it, of just like if we think it kind of got to that better point, but we'll see. Because I want to know if at any point the comics does end up being better than TV show. I'm sure it gets so much better. But yeah, Jade has a little bit to say, so I'll go through this and just stop me at any point if you want to jump in. The people who made this really like their references. The title of each 4-issue volume is a TV series, like Family Matters. And then there's details in the background and on shirts, like the Twin Pines Mall, and references to bands, logos, the Magnum PI. There's so many in there. I'm sure you could like pick apart the pages.
It's like a less abrasive Ready Player One.
Yeah, totally. There's the school is called Reginald Vell Johnson High School, and then the principal looks like the actor Reginald Vell Johnson, so it's very cool.
Okay.
And then in the TV show, the school is still called that. The teacher looks like someone else, but is played by Reginald Vell Johnson. So it's like
amazing,
so good.
So it's very cool. And then I love how this series blends the superhero work with regular work, school, and family life. Moments like the dad zipping in after a long day, the mother's resignation at her stressful situation, Mark wanting to rest but needing to finish studying. Yeah, totally. The family dynamic is good, although again, Debbie's character is kind of just there. I did like Jade mentioned the Mark wanting to rest but need to finish studying. I did like that bit. I can't remember which issue it's in, but he just comes home and he's like, I can't wait to sleep. And then he looks at his bed and his homework's there. We've all had that.
After the aliens, isn't it? Maybe aliens or college. Because he comes home and like, I'm not dealing with this right now, when he sees that the shirts are inside out.
Yeah,
and
totally.
He goes upstairs and then he's like,
the books.
We've all had that moment, but I'm sure we haven't had that moment as a superhero.
Speak for yourself, Ben.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah, I'm projecting maybe. The teacher was a massive jerk, which we all agreed on. But his line to Samantha about not wearing a mask is gold, definitely. Yes. Alan is my favorite character. Alan is great. I don't know if Alan comes back again, like in the TV show or in the comics, but I really hope so.
I think there is like a brief mention or appearance. I can't remember if it's
I so hope so. He's so good. It's just like that whole little story is just brilliant. It's the most subversive part of this so far, which we love a bit of subverting expectations, but that does it in a very good way. Science Dog might give him a run for his money when we meet him, because the comic Mark is reading is called Science Dog.
That's right.
And
it kind of looks like Doctor Strange.
Yeah, in the TV show, it's called Seance Dog, because he very much does look like Doctor Strange. So they kind of like adapted that little bit. And then Jade's final comment is kind of like a prediction of where she thinks it'll go. So based on these 2 volumes, Samantha and Mark got to become an item. Invincible's secret identity will be compromised by his various slip-ups. His dad appears to have a villainous anger issue. Really? Didn't catch that one. So I imagine confrontation must occur at some point. Yeah. Look, you're correct on some fronts, and maybe not on other fronts, but I'll leave that for you to read more, which you may not do, considering the other thing you said, which is I'm definitely interested in this series to see where it goes, but I'm not sure I'll be able to deal with the gore if it continues like this, so I am torn. Sorry, I am a delicate flower. Do you know if the violence that ended the Guardians is indicative of what to expect here on out? Yes.
Very. Barely.
Do not watch this TV show, especially with your kid around. It very much leans into this, which I guess sucks for you, but I appreciate it. I didn't mean it in that way.
I love it because it's like you knew you were going to say that thing.
Yeah.
So you just slowed it down so it's a little bit less impactful.
Yeah.
I guess it sucks for you.
I'm sorry, Jade. You're great. You always provide us with content for these podcasts, but
sucks for you.
But sucks for you.
So heavy.
Yeah.
Oh god. I would definitely caution you to, if you even reading the comics from what I've read with the comics, like if you read the next issue, it's already like you will have leveled up because kind of. Issue 5 or whatever really breaks the seal on the level of violence in the show and comic, and so just I'm really sorry because from what I can tell, it gets so much better. But sucks. They go down. Sucks for you.
I can't even look at the camera when I say that. I feel so bad. It's okay.
It's great.
That's it. That's Invincible.
Cool.
Yeah, well, it's not all of Invincible. It's a very small part of Invincible.
There's 134, 138, whatever.
Yeah,
still to read.
There's a lot of them.
Crazy.
But I enjoyed it. It was definitely interesting to see where it all started. I guess for you 2 guys, it's like your introduction to it. But
I've heard about it, and it is iconic. His outfit actually did end up being iconic because as soon as he put the first version of it on, I'm like, yeah, that looks like what I remember Invincible being, but I feel like something's off, and it was the colors. But it's a very similar, like the first one he puts on is still pretty similar with the goggles and stuff.
Yeah, absolutely.
But it does that actually end up being a pretty iconic outfit that I've seen for years.
It's definitely one of the most well-known and like most lauded independent comics out there, which is why it went for so long. Like outside of Marvel and DC stuff, that and The Walking Dead, both from this guy, conveniently enough. Yeah. But that's kind of all I have to say. You guys have any final comments on Invincible, or should we jump into next month?
That's pretty much it from me.
That's pretty much it. That's good.
It was good. I want more.
It was good. I want more. That's the general vibe of the whole podcast, I think.
So I was just going to say I wrote a note for myself so that I wouldn't.
Josh, we literally just
forget.
It's okay.
Sorry.
It's okay.
And I just said I'm mostly interested in continuing this, even though like this first few issues were fine but not great. I feel like I'm mostly interested because it's so easy to read.
Yes.
Like, I think we all read all of this today.
Yes, that is true.
And I've had a lot on today. Will went out for lunch.
I've been moving house all week, so like
house. So we've all been super busy, and we're like, all right, let's do the podcast Sunday. None of us have read it yet, but we'll do it. Crazy.
It's
such an easy read, and
you can read 4 volumes of it if you want.
Me being someone who is quite slow at reading and doesn't read much, I'm just like, I could read this. Like, I could actually read one of these on my train trip, whereas it takes me a little longer to read like a Marvel comic or something.
I feel the same. I feel like
train trip.
I feel like I can smash through. Like, it's like 140 issues, right? And I'm like, normally I'd be very daunted by that. I still am daunted by it, but given how easily I read through these, I'm like, I could get through that if I wanted to.
I just don't know what I want to do first. If I want to watch the show or I want to.
Yeah, that's the interesting thing. I think now that I've read the comics and watched a season of the show, they divert enough that I do actually feel like I can go on and read the comics and I will still be surprised by the show. So definitely that's what I'd say. But then again, I've only read so much of the comics. Yeah. Next month, which is May of 2021, there's nothing coming out. Was going to be Black Widow, but you know that got pushed. Everything gets pushed in post-COVID times. But Loki is coming out in June, so we figured we'd do a Loki double feature. So next month we are going to do Loki Agent of Asgard issues 1 to 5, which is, I think, I'm not sure the exact details of it. I had a friend recommend it to me, but basically he becomes, instead of being the god of mischief, he becomes the god of storytelling and lore and all that stuff. Which seems,
what is a story if not an elaborate lie or something?
That's true. Yeah, so it starts going down all those routes that the show seems to be going down, which is very cool. And then the month after we'll do Vote Loki, so if you want to get ahead you can read that. But I'm very excited to do that. I'm very excited for a little bit of Loki action. It'll be very good.
Yeah, I read through the Vote Loki a while ago, or basically when that trailer dropped. It's a very short and fun series, so I'm excited to talk about that.
That'll be good. I'm keen for some slightly shorter ones. I'm sure we'll still find a way to talk for an hour and a half about them, but at the very least it'll make our busy lives a little bit easier knowing we only have a little bit to get through.
This feels like one of our shorter podcasts too, this one.
Yeah, you know.
It was 8 issues. Well, don't worry, because we'll be back in maybe, I don't know, 2 weeks or so, talking all about Invincible again.
Invincible.
Probably. Yeah, for that.
Yeah, it'll be very good. And where else can they catch you, Will, if they want to know more about ETTO, want to get more ETTO content?
Well, depending on where you're listening to this, if you're watching us on YouTube right now, you're on youtube.com/each to their own. But if you're over on an audio place, then you can go to youtube.com/each to their own, where that stuff is happening. We're kind of across Spotify, Google Cast. You'll find us in places, but they're kind of our 2 hubs. And if you want to catch us live, we're on twitch.tv/ettonline is kind of the deal. It's a dumb name, but you'll find it.
2 times a week.
Yes.
ETTonline, ETT online.
Yes, mainly Josh and Will. Sometimes Josh, Will, and Sam, who does a couple of other shows with these guys. True. And sometimes me for normally about 5 minutes. So, you know.
It's the best.
Yeah.
And, if you did enjoy this a lot and you're like, I want to throw money at these people, we are on Patreon. So patreon.com/each to their own. We have 4 tiers. $3 will get you into our lowest tier, and that'll get you some things. I don't remember what the tiers are.
Early access,
early content and stuff like that.
Early access, and Discord access, the opportunity to write in to be part of these, like Dolphin Pants and Jade always are.
Yeah,
so,
that's it. It's great. So come hang out.
And if they want to see you live or see you, Ben, where can they go?
Yes. I have a Twitch channel. I stream pretty regularly, at least once a week, although that's been a bit shaky recently, on twitch.tv/ArgonTV. I pop into these guys' streams every now and then as well if they're playing certain games. And I've been starting up a little podcast recently. I'll keep you updated on that next time if that has its own place to be. But for now, just go follow that Twitch channel and I'll be streaming pretty regularly over there, playing some games and stuff. Anyway.
Hell yeah.
Cool, man.
Didn't you do something? You did something crazy in Hearthstone, didn't you?
Oh, yeah. I hit Legend in Hearthstone. Yeah. I played that game for 7 years and I finally was somewhat good at it.
Sick.
Yeah, it's very cool. All right. Until next time, guys, I've been Ben.
I've been Will.
I've been Josh.
Peace.
Bye.
Bye.